what veggies can I grow in my aquaponics system? Okay, little barrel system. And let's be honest, you're not going to be able to grow a whole lot in your little barrel aquaponics system. You're going to be able to grow your herbs. Some lettuce, some spinach, you know, some spring onions, mixing that around a little bit. That's probably what you're going to be able to grow comfortably within this little barrel aquaponics system. In a bigger system, the sky's the limit. Okay, you can grow so much stuff. I've got broccoli, cauliflower, silver beet, snow peas, going nuts in there. It's important to remember within aquaponics that we do have the media in here and we do have the water constantly. So it's either the water is going to either constantly be at a certain level or it's going to be coming up and down. So flooding it and draining it, flooding it and draining it. Depends on how you do design your system. And if you watch my videos, you'll be able to see the difference in how it works. Okay? But some crops don't like having their feet wet, as it were. So your root crops especially, you can grow them, especially if you have it in a flood and drain type system. They will grow in a flood and drain system. Not quite as well. So in that case, that's one of the reasons I do have my wicking beds, so that I can grow them. And especially a longer crop, like my turmeric, it takes about 9 months to grow. If I had my turmeric growing in here, it would grow in here, it would absolutely love it. Okay? And turmeric grows the tubers underground like potatoes. Turmeric love aquaponic systems, but the problem is 9 months would take that whole little grow bed space and be doing its own thing, growing lots and lots of turmeric for me, but it's wasting all of that space. Whereas I can put that turmeric in my wicking beds and I can use that to grow lots and lots of faster growing veggies. So faster growing like your silver beet or your spinach or your lettuces or your coriander or your basil or your dill or your chives. You can get a lot of those crops in 9 months versus one big plant of turmeric. So you'll need to kind of weigh that, you do need to understand your plants and your veggies to a degree. So potatoes don't really like being in water too much. They like getting wet, but they don't like sitting in water. So potatoes will probably rot in an aquaponic system. Things like mint. Mint loves aquaponics, but mint is really bad. The roots, even in the soil, mint roots and anything in that mint family will actually become an invasive plant, and that's why these days they're mostly kept in pots. It will go through all of your piping, clog everything up, and cause a massive problem. So you do need to have a fundamental understanding of the different vegetables. Now, we're also going to talk about rosemary, because that's another, rosemary and lavender are two other favourites. I grow both, but neither in my aquaponic system. One, they grow into hedges, those things. Both types, both rosemary and lavender can be hedges. They grow huge, and they also don't like having their roots wet that much. So they're going to take up way too much space. They're also what we would call a perennial. So they're always, not always flowering, but they're always growing. Whereas we have our, what we call annual or seasonal, which is our coriander and our basil. At the moment you can see I've actually got some strawberries in here. Strawberries are perennials. I've only got one plant in each grow bed. So the leaves will always be there, and they'll only be fruiting at one time during the year. So in some cases, and I will also be adding some oregano. Oregano is also a perennial, but I can keep that trimmed and nice and neat in a small little space so it doesn't overgrow everything else. But that's taking up space that I could be growing a lot more of other herbs or other things. So you do need to know what it is your plant does. So with the rosemary, it would take over this whole section, wouldn't really like all of the water, and it would end up collapsing because it's very high. And the same with the lavender. So we need to have a fundamental understanding of our veggies, but most things you can actually grow within your aquaponic system, but I just would not recommend it with a small aquaponic system. The large ones, yeah, absolutely. Design your system on a larger scale so that you can have your climbers, so you can have your runners. In fact, I will be putting my cucumbers when it's seasonal in here, and I'll be attaching some mesh to the brick, and they can actually then climb up. That's just understanding what your veggies actually do need. Okay, so you can grow most things, but before you pop everything in, have a bit of a look and also balance out how much of the nitrate, and we're talking about water quality, how much of the fertilizer are the fish producing to balance out the amount of vegetables you can have. If you completely plant it out but you're not getting enough fertilizer because the fish are still small, then the veggies are going to start dying. Okay, so you do need to have that balance. And we'll talk about that in another video.